Hello folks, Dave Mayo here from HackYourGut.com, and today I'm going to answer a question I commonly get asked: are sunglasses bad for your biological rhythm? So first, it's important to understand why this might be the case. So the theory behind it is that our master clock in our brain is set by our exposure to light, and what happens there is light enters our eye and triggers these intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which help regulate our circadian rhythm. And this is primarily accomplished when light hits a photopigment called melanopsin. Now, you don't really need to know super in-depth about this, but just know that when you stimulate melanopsin fully, this blocks the production of melatonin, which tells you that it's daytime. Now, to get that, you need 1,000 lux. So lux is a kind of measure of light intensity. So you need 1,000 lux to stimulate fully melanopsin to prevent the secretion of melatonin. So the theory goes, when you wear sunglasses such as this, you're blocking the light that enters your eye and you're disrupting your circadian rhythm. But does the data kind of back that up? We're going to answer that question. But before we get into that, we're going to discuss why you may want to wear sunglasses. So the primary reason to wear sunglasses is that they offer protection to your eye, both from ultraviolet light and blue light. Ultraviolet light can cause a number of problems. It's associated with cataracts, macular degeneration, and photokeratitis, which is simply just sunburn to the eyes. So protecting your eyes is really important. Additionally, it's really important to protect the eyes of your children because they're more sensitive to ultraviolet radiation. Their eye lets in 70% more ultraviolet radiation than an adult eye does, and they're generally outside more often than we are. Another group that may be concerned about this are people with blue eyes or light-colored eyes, and that's because the pigment melanin is what gives your eyes their color. So if you have a lot of melanin, you have brown or darker eyes, and when you have less melanin, you have lighter eyes. And the important thing here is that melanin actually kind of blocks ultraviolet rays, and this can prevent ultraviolet rays from damaging the DNA in the structures in your eye. So wearing sunglasses such as these, which are UV 400, which means they're blocking ultraviolet light, can help prevent this damage. And this is more of an accumulative damage over time, and unfortunately there's no way to reverse this. So it's important to get some level of UV protection to your eyes. A lot of people are under the impression that since there are benefits to ultraviolet light, which we'll get to in a second, that there is not a dose over time that you should not exceed, but it does appear that is the case, and people with blue eyes are more likely going to have these issues. Children are going to be more exposed to ultraviolet radiation as well. In fact, the theory goes that around 70-80% of the ultraviolet rays that penetrate your eye, that's going to happen over a lifetime, but before you turn 18 years old. So there's some pretty good evidence that you want to protect your children's eye, you want to protect your eye, but at the same time you certainly don't want to disrupt your circadian rhythm. So what are these benefits of light to the eye? Well, first we have alertness. When you are getting light exposure to your eye, it's making you more alert, so it makes you better at your job, it makes you better at life, and it makes you better at sports, and it makes you feel better. The second is that this blue light is primarily the type of light that has the most effect on these intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. So blue light during the day, like we're getting right now, even though it's kind of overcast, you're getting a ton of blue light. You're getting a ton of every light. You're getting a full balance or a full spectrum light, which is beneficial to your eye. Some of the red light that we're getting now, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, is actually helpful to your eye. So you're getting this balance of destructive effects on the eye with like blue light and ultraviolet radiation, but you're also getting the red light, which is beneficial to your eye and healing. And finally, mood. You're probably affected of seasonal affective disorder. UV light improves mood. It's also believed in children to help the developing eye develop properly, so it can help prevent myopia. Although there's a Goldilocks effect here. There's probably an amount you need and an amount that you should not exceed. So don't believe that simply because you need it to develop your eye properly. It's actually the shape of the eye, the length of the eye, that will actually help your eye develop and prevent nearsightedness. So the evidence seems to point that this may actually not be ultraviolet light. It may simply just be violet light, and that's because it triggers a different photopigment in the eye. Now we can get to some data on wearing sunglasses or other sun protective features. It's actually a really cool study that they did. They basically took like a fake head, and they put a photosensor into the eye, and they did different things. They put it in the shade, they gave it a hat, they put on sunglasses to see what happens to the light exposure to the eye when you do these different protective mechanisms. So what they found was that, just outside kind of looking normally, they found 11,000 to 18,000 lux, way above the 1,000 lux you need to set your circadian rhythm. And then in tree shade, it went down to 5,500 or 7,800 lux, so about a 50% drop. Pretty substantial, and this helped people kind of get exposed to less light. And then finally they used sunglasses, and sunglasses gave anywhere from 1,800 to 6,800 lux exposure to the eye. So they were still getting enough to set their circadian rhythm. They were protecting the eye from UV damage. Were they getting, depending on how long you wear sunglasses, that'll determine whether or not you're getting the effective dose you need for mood, alertness, and the developing eye in children. But as you can see, wearing sunglasses doesn't quite knock down the level of lux that you need to set your circadian rhythm. But we're going to do a little illustration of why, we're talking about 1,800 to 6,800 lux. Is there like a natural condition, let's say no sunglasses, that we can see that somebody would be exposed to in free living conditions? Say they were living out in the wild, a human living out in the wild, hunting, fishing, doing things of that nature, just living out in the wild. Is there a way we can kind of recapture this same level of lux wearing sunglasses that you would get just in something that's perfectly normal, that we would not believe would disrupt our circadian rhythm? So we're going to do that illustration now. Just for reference sake, it was done at 7:45 in the morning on a sunny morning. So we'll let you get to that now, and then we'll come back and discuss the results. Alrighty folks, so here we have our little demonstration of kind of a natural condition where we are suppressing light exposure. Here we're getting a reading kind of in that general area that we were getting in the study, 14, 16,000 lux, great for circadian rhythm. Of course, we're in an open field, we're not really facing the sun. If we turn to the sun, we're going to get a much greater reading. See, we're up in the 50s or 60s. So let's now see what happens when we start to turn. The first thing that happens, we turn and face the woods, and we get a substantial drop in our lux. And at this point, we're already below the level that you would see in terms of blocking light from wearing sunglasses. And as we walk in deeper, we're going to get a huge suppression of our exposure to light. We're at about half of what you need for your circadian rhythm. We're not even really that deep in the woods. So if we turn more into the shade, get a further drop, and if we were in the thick of the woods, we could get this down below 200. And the reason this is important is because people are not spending their entire day out in an open field. We're getting more suppression here just simply being in the woods than we would get wearing sunglasses. So it's kind of a crazy idea to think that you're disturbing your circadian rhythm simply by walking in the woods, especially since during the peak of a very hot summer day in our ancestral past, we were certainly not just standing wide open in an open field out in the sun. We were probably seeking shade. We were probably hanging out in the woods. So we have a clear illustration here that sunglasses are actually not as bad for stimulating melanopsin than simply walking into the woods. So it's kind of ridiculous to think that you can't wear sunglasses and that it's bad for your circadian rhythm, especially when you're getting the amount of stimulation you need of light to hit those IPRGCs to block the suppression or block the production of melatonin. So sunglasses you really don't need to worry about wearing. Certainly don't wear them all day. From a biological clock perspective, you are not disrupting your biological clock any more than you are by turning around and walking into the woods. So there you have it, folks. Wearing sunglasses is unlikely to cause a major effect on your circadian rhythm. Certainly make sure you're getting enough light to set your circadian rhythm. Make sure you're getting enough light to have a positive mood, because nobody wants a negative Nancy around them. And of course, make sure that you're getting enough light so that you are alert and, you know, able to go about your day and do your things. I certainly would not wear sunglasses all day, every day. Make sure you're hitting the important times early in the morning, late at night, set circadian rhythms as the sun rises and sun sets. Or on days like this, it's overcast and cloudy. Don't really need sunglasses at all. The lux I did right before this, looking out into ideal conditions, is around 6,000. More than enough to set my circadian rhythm. Don't really need to wear sunglasses right now. But when the sun is more intense, it's a day where you're getting pounded with sun, probably a great idea to wear sunglasses, protect your eyes from ultraviolet and too much blue light, which can cause damage to the structures of the eye. That damage is cumulative and non-reversible, so make sure you kind of keep your eyes healthy by protecting them when you need to. Another thing we didn't mention at the beginning is that with age there's a natural yellowing of the lens, which effectively functions as a blue blocker. So if you continually pepper your eye with ultraviolet rays and blue light, this can cause yellowing of the eye lens, which is going to make it harder to set your circadian rhythm when you're in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And of course, you do not want to have cataracts, because cataract surgery is probably not a treat. So make sure you protect your eyes, especially dealing with children. Make sure they get enough light, but make sure that you're protecting them at the same time. If you have blue eyes or other light colored eyes, probably a good idea to protect your eyes as well. And make sure that you are not causing damage that you're going to regret 20 or 30 years from now. So in summary, wearing sunglasses is not going to disrupt your circadian rhythm any more than taking a walk in the woods is. In fact, walking in the woods is going to cause a more quote-unquote disrupting effect on your circadian rhythm, but that's factored into the system. That system is not meant to change immediately due to acute light exposure. It's effectively supposed to kind of monitor average light exposure, use that information over the course of days, weeks, and months to help set your circadian rhythm. So that's definitely factored into the system. If you want to wear sunglasses, go at it. Just don't wear them all day, every day, and make sure you're getting enough for the beneficial effects of light exposure. Thank you for listening in. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you have constructive criticism, drop them in the comment section below. If you like this stuff, make sure you subscribe to us. We have more stuff coming out on circadian rhythms. We've been focusing on gut health, but we want to tackle circadian rhythms a lot more as well with things such as this. Probably also discuss diet, things like polyphenols, short chain fatty acids, and really we want to discuss the gut circadian clock because that's really important to gastrointestinal health. So just make sure you like, share, get the word out, let people find our videos so that we can do more and help a lot more people. Thank you very much for listening in. Take care.